Hi, my name is Pam Killeen, and welcome to my podcast, Circadian Reboot, where we discuss everything circadian. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we have Dr. Catherine Clinton on the show. She is a licensed naturopathic physician and has spent over 17 years helping people overcome their health issues. She completed her Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine from the National University of Natural Medicine. Diagnosed with 2 autoimmune conditions and Lyme disease while in medical school, she began the long and difficult journey of healing, a path that led to the commitment of helping others. Dr. Catherine has multiple articles that have been published in peer-reviewed research journals. She maintains a small practice in Eugene, Oregon, and Dr. Catherine teaches doctors, healthcare practitioners, and health enthusiasts from all around the world in how to apply the principles of quantum biology for health, and is a sought-after speaker with speaking engagements across the globe. Her mission is to empower as many people as she can with knowledge of quantum biology for health and help them explore a new perspective in healing. Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here today. It's such a thrill to have you here. I feel like you're a walking, talking encyclopedia for everything quantum. And I've been studying a lot of your videos and your website, and I don't even know where to start. You have so much knowledge in this area. I think one of the things that stood out to me at a recent interview that I was listening to, a quote that you made, which I think envelops this entire subject, is that the body is talking using chemistry, mechanics, and energetics. So basically, a lot of what we're dealing with quantum is frequency and resonance. And these terms can be quite foreign to the average person. So I'm wondering if you can just distill it down and help us all understand it.
Yeah, definitely. When we're talking about quantum biology, we're talking about a new emerging field in science that is looking at quantum mechanics in a living system. So the first research came out about photosynthetic bacteria and how these bacteria would grab a bit of light, a photon, and get it to the photoreactive center for photosynthesis to occur. But what we now know is that so many living systems, like our own body, utilize quantum mechanics. And we really have been trained. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician. When I was in naturopathic medical school, I was trained that the body works as a chemical mechanical machine. So if we have disease, it's because of a chemical imbalance or a mechanical misalignment. Now, we know that's true, but we also know that that only explains a piece of what's going on. And that's where quantum biology comes in. If you look at the body, we have trillions and trillions of cells, and each one of those cells is completing hundreds and thousands of tasks each second. Mathematically, that's impossible with our current understanding or explanation of this chemical model where you have a chemical key randomly bouncing around a cell until it finds its receptor, unlocks the receptor, and action happens. We know that part's true. The key does fit in there. It unlocks the receptor, action happens. It's the randomness, the bouncing that we are now calling into question. And that's where quantum biology comes in. It speaks of resonance and frequency as a guiding feature to bring that thing to the receptor, to bring that chemical, physical lock to that receptor and unlock action, like 2 tuning forks, right? So if we had 2 tuning forks set at the same frequency and we struck one of them, the second tuning fork would pick up that same frequency and it would start singing that same tone. And that's what we're looking at in the body. This idea that frequency is acting as a beacon. It's acting as a source of energy. And it's really expanding our understanding of what's happening in the human body. And it is such an incredible perspective.
Yeah, it's a very exciting field. I mean, for the average person listening to this, would a good analogy be that we charge our cell phones, we charge our laptops? What about charging our bodies? Because ultimately we are a battery.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are electric. And I think another analogy that works too is how we open our cars, right? We used to all unlock our cars with this physical key. Now we use a fob. And when we use a fob on our Toyota, all the other Toyotas don't open, right? That's a specific frequency to unlock that specific car. And the same thing is happening in our body. And that frequency can be electric, like you just mentioned, charging our cell phones and appliances. It can be magnetic. It can be electromagnetic in energy. It can be light. Light is powerful for its effects on the body. It can be sound, and these little phonons of sound. So it's really fascinating.
Right. I was very interested in one of your videos about sound because very few quantum practitioners seem to discuss this topic. Yet, sound does penetrate our cells and affect us. I've seen some of the videos I think that you mentioned in your video where you talk about the disarrangement, this chaos of sound that can come out of non-native EMFs versus what we really should be exposed to, which is harmony. And in a sense, that's can be an analogy for our lives and our health. Is that we really want to be in this state of peace and calm, and yet we're surrounded by this chaos, including some very chaotic sounds, if you will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just like we are pretty aware of the toxicity in our food, in our air, in our water, there's also noise pollution, right? And it's akin to the rhythm of the sun, right? We need that morning sun. We need the afternoon sun. As the sun sets, we need darkness. The same thing can be applied to our understanding of sound. So many different frequencies of sound can be healing, can be beneficial, but so can silence, right? We need silence as much as we need sound. And many of us live in environments that never ever have us experiencing silence. And that can be a problem for the body as well.
And you talk about the many pillars of health, one of them being sound. There are several other pillars that you mentioned, including water. You mentioned light already, and we've discussed frequency. I know that you seem to know a lot about deuterium, and I've studied it on my own. And it's a frightening topic, but I love how you make it very practical and get everybody over the fear of potentially taking in too much deuterium or having stored too much deuterium. I agree with you that it can be simple to deal with excess deuterium. But before we get into that, maybe you can discuss what deuterium is. And I think it's a very important topic.
It is. It is. And I think that there are a lot of different viewpoints, especially in the realm of quantum biology for health, right? And my take on deuterium, so deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, and it has almost double the weight of the regular hydrogen that we're used to seeing in our environment. And that means that it can cause issues in our mitochondria. It can slow the mitochondria down. But on the flip side of that, it's also a messaging signal in the body, much like reactive oxygen species that are being created by our mitochondria. They act as messaging signals throughout the body. Too much of those reactive oxidative species, we get oxidative damage. It's not good. It can lead to metabolic issues and a host of ill effects in the body. Same with deuterium, but deuterium is also a signaling molecule in the body. So we want to really understand that nature is intelligent, and we were created with deuterium in our environment, deuterium in our body for a reason. Excess deuterium from modern day sources can be a real problem, right? And where does that come from? It comes from processed foods. It comes from these industrial seed oils, right? So that can be a real problem. And across the board, I think that's something we can just say for so many reasons, we should be avoiding that. We should be getting essential fatty acids, whole fatty acids, saturated fat, whole foods. That idea of sort of shopping from the perimeter of the grocery store and avoiding the aisles of processed foods really applies to our intake of deuterium. And how does the body get rid of deuterium? Well, it gets rid of deuterium from having properly functioning mitochondria, from exercise and movement. And so I think framing it in context where we don't become fearful of deuterium in our body, because deuterium does serve a purpose. Now, in some situations where we're talking about extreme metabolic issues, or like cancer, really watching our deuterium intake or levels in the body can be really helpful. And we've seen this from the research. But for the everyday person who's struggling with less severe health issues and wanting to really improve their health, I think the best approach is really to focus on mitochondrial health, to move the body, and to make sure that we're getting whole foods, whole fats, and really watching our intake of anything processed.
Yeah, I was reading some research through, I think it was Beth Israel Hospital, and the research I read really emphasized the importance of good sleep in terms of controlling your level of deuterium in the body. But that actually is redundant to dealing with mitochondrial health, because when your mitochondria aren't healthy, it's really difficult to get a good night's sleep. So some people are using red light therapy, of course, to try to boost their mitochondrial health. But even better is being out in the natural sunlight. And I don't know your take on red light therapy, but certainly the at the pinnacle of it all is being out in the sun, and maybe as a kind of a supplement, if you will, to use red light therapy to try and use some kind of system to perk up our mitochondria.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when we talk about, so first of all, I completely agree. The sun is our foundational light therapy. That's what we have evolved over millennia with. That is what is really the guiding force in our circadian rhythm and all of those biological functions, thousands of them really, that depend on that alignment with the rhythm of the sun. And that sunrise, sunset is rich in red and infrared light, but it's available at all times when the sun is up, right? Because it's balanced with the other spectrums of visible light, with UV light. But when we're talking about red light therapy, I think we also need to be talking about artificial blue light and this relationship that modern life puts us in. So red light therapy is a wonderful adjunct, right? And can be a powerful tool. Does it replace our relationship with the sun? Absolutely not. But it can be powerful. And we know from the work of researchers like Glenn Jeffrey that red light therapy can be really incredible for blood sugar, for eye health, for just mitochondrial health overall. And the same thing can be said for excess artificial blue light in our environment, that it degrades that mitochondrial health and function and can cause some real issues. And so red light therapy can be used as something to negate or balance that dominant blue light environment that most of us are in modern day life. And it's a wonderful thing to help boost our mitochondrial function. And a lot of the red light devices out there also have infrared spectrums and wavelengths that are incorporated into the device. And those are also wonderful for improving mitochondrial function and for increasing that specialized water that lines our cells, that lines our mitochondria, lines our tissues and fascia throughout the body, sort of creating this network of water and water energy in the body.
And what you're talking about is exclusion zone water or fourth phase of water, which was researched by Gerald Pollack. And so, one of the ways to basically encourage that internal cellular water is through red light therapy, but also through exposure to the sun. Is there anything else people can do to try and encourage or support the easy water in our bodies?
Yeah, absolutely. Hydration sort of foundational, right? So if we're dehydrated, we're not going to have the building blocks of that water to begin with. So making sure we have a good source of water, that there's some mineral content in the water that allows it to go intercellularly. That's sort of the first step, making sure that there's water in there to begin with. And then we see from Pollack's research that adding infrared energy builds that easy water zone. And what's outside of that easy water? As this easy water builds against our cells, it's negatively charged. And right outside that negatively charged easy water, cell-bound water, is a positively charged region of water. And it creates this water battery. And what builds that is infrared energy. So we were just talking about red light devices that often have infrared spectrums into the high 700 nanometers, 800 nanometers, 900 nanometers. But also infrared energy is created through movement. It's created through the movement of our fascia. And anytime we compress that fascia, our fascia is piezoelectric, like a quartz crystal. So when we compress it, it creates an electrical current. And that is rich in infrared energy. Taking a warm bath or a sauna is a wonderful way to increase that infrared energy in the body. And saunas are wonderful, but not all of us can afford those. But we can take a warm bath. We can put like a folded up towel underneath that bathroom door so the air stays in that bathroom. We can turn on a hot shower to get some steam going, fill the bath with warm water, nice warm water. We're on a well here where I live, so I'm very conscious of water conservation because we can run dry if we use too much. So I can get that sauna effect. I can get that effect of sweating and increasing my body temperature with just a few inches of warm water, really warm water. So it doesn't take much in a warm bath. Even throwing a blanket over us in the evening, snuggling, sitting by a fire. I mean, there's really a wonderful list of things we can do to increase our infrared energy and help build that easy water battery within us.
Now, in the spectrum of the sun during the day, it's the morning and the evening sun, or towards the evening sun, that has the higher amounts of the infrared. Is that correct?
Well, the infrared is available any time that the sun is up. And I live here in the Pacific Northwest, so we are now living in a blanket of gray. We probably won't see the sun again until March, right? But those cloudy, sort of yucky days are rich in infrared energy. It doesn't have to be that beautiful sun. That infrared energy is rich anytime we're outside and the sun is up, even if we're in the shade. Being underneath a canopy of vegetation, whether that's sitting underneath a tree or wherever we might be sitting in the shade outside, that is rich as well. Those leaves are capturing and absorbing the ultraviolet rays, but they're letting those infrared rays go straight through, and they're available for us even in the shade. So that's a wonderful thing to be mindful of, because I know we love that gorgeous, beautiful sun, that summertime sun. But anytime the sun is up year round, it's rich and abundant in those infrared spectrums.
Now, I'm not sure if it was you who said that if it is cloudy, maybe spend an extra 5 minutes outside versus, like, let's say your goal is to go outside for 10 minutes 3 times a day. I mean, I'm outside a lot more than that myself, but people are going to do the best they can with what they have. But let's just say somebody has a goal of 10 minutes 3 times a day to just stand outside, hopefully do some grounding at the same time. If it's cloudy, could you extend that to an extra 5 minutes, so 15 minutes 3 times a day in order to compensate for maybe less infrared?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the infrared's going to be there, but it's the ultraviolet light that's blocked. So where I am, we said goodbye to the ultraviolet B rays that help convert vitamin D in our skin and in our body. But we still have ultraviolet A. That's available to us year round. But we're living in that blanket of clouds, so it does block a lot of that ultraviolet light. And that is what that ultraviolet A light, and that is what is cueing those circadian cues in our body to dump dopamine and serotonin and to convert tyrosine and produce pregnenolone, that backbone of our sex hormones, and cortisol. All of these different biological cascades are cued by blue light and ultraviolet A light in our environment in the morning. And so that's the reason why we want to stay out a little bit longer when it's cloudy, so that we're getting adequate exposure and still having that functioning and those biological cascades and dumping of neurotransmitters and hormones throughout the body.
Now, to be clear, of course, if you are out in the sun and you want to get the benefits of the sun, we're talking about here not wearing contact lenses or glasses or caps. I mean, you don't really want barriers between yourself and this medicine that Mother Nature provides for us. So, what do you recommend to people who are just getting started? I mean, we're not telling anybody, by the way, to look at the sun directly. It's a really safe process to try and set goals for yourself and just prioritize being outside. That, if you really want to charge your energy in your body, that really happens by going outside. And the secondary element, of course, is hopefully you're outside grounding as well. And I heard a great trick, by the way, with the weather changing right now, that if it's cold, you take hot water and you put it on the grass. And it's a little easier to bear the cold if you can do that, as this climate is changing right now here in the north. But I take it you recommend to your clients to ground as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's just a powerful way to not only charge our battery, but align, right? So we're not only coming in contact with that electrical field that surrounds our Earth, that sea of free electrons that's covering the surface of our Earth and the things that are embedded in that, like trees and plants, but we're also coming in contact with the geomagnetic field. And that has some regulatory effects as well. And we're just starting to understand that. So I think both of those things are really important. And that's why I sort of shy away from grounding products in favor of contact with the earth that we evolved on and are currently living on. I think that that's really important. And we're also exposed to all those negative ions when we go outside in a natural setting. So it's something that we can kind of stack, right? I know people are very busy. We lead very fast and full lives. So getting that circadian alignment at the same time that we're grounding and outside is a beautiful way to do things at the same time that can have so much benefit.
Now, you talk about the electrons, and I've heard you also discuss the cell danger response and how it's a really strange concept that our bodies are attacking ourselves. Like, there's just so much of a burden on our bodies, the total body burden, if you will. But soaking up these electrons can help counteract some of that cell danger response, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would even take issue with that description of the body attacking itself, autoimmunity, where the body is attacking structures. Really, the body is responding to the environment it's living in. And when we talk about danger signals, a lot of us are thinking, okay, stress is a major one, but we don't realize that food, our polluted air and water, non-native EMF signals, noise pollution that we talked about, all of these things are considered danger signals to the body. And when the body's inundated with those signals, it acts appropriately by creating this hypervigilant immune system response. And we really need to flood the body with safety signals. And if we just take a step back and try not to make it too complicated, really we can kind of simplify it into our modern life with all of these different toxins, all of these different electromagnetic fields that we're now exposed to can be looked at along with this drive for productivity and work, and a less priority on relaxation and rest and play. Those things are danger signals versus how we evolved over millennia. Being outside, being in nature, being under the sun, relaxing, prioritizing sleep. When the sun goes down, it's dark and we should get sleepy and get good sleep, right? It's that beautiful relationship that we have evolved with. And we can see that in so many things. It's here, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. So where I'm at, we have left the window where my body is making vitamin D. But if I have spent the summer out in sun and adequate sun exposure, safe sun exposure, then I have rich stores of vitamin D. And if I'm taking advantage of the longer nights during fall and winter and really getting abundant release of melatonin and getting that antioxidant and getting that repair, we see this beautiful relationship happening between the two. So that those safety signals come from really how we have evolved as humans. And a lot of our danger signals are from how we are now living our modern life.
I mean, something very simple, like we talked about earlier, where when you get up in the morning and you look at that beautiful morning sun, that's when we actually produce our melatonin, which is a very, very powerful antioxidant. And a danger signal at night would be light, basically, because we want to release that melatonin that we produced in the morning. And unfortunately, if you're sleeping with your light on, or if your house is too bright, you're not wearing blue light blockers, you're going to shunt the release of the melatonin. I mean, this is something very subtle. It's something that is part of our biology, but just by having lights on when they shouldn't be on is a danger response.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the body responding correctly. It's 9 o'clock at night and the body says, oh, geez, it's noon. Okay. We got to keep pumping cortisol. We got to keep doing all these things that we really don't want to be doing in the evening and in the darkness. The darkness is so foundational to our biology. It's just as foundational as the light is during the day. And so living out of sync with that light environment, that natural rhythm of the sun, has some really adverse effects on our biology and health.
Now, you work with a lot of clients and you have a lot of wonderful courses on your website. What do you really emphasize when you're working with people? Like, what are the nuggets that you would share with people to really prioritize some of these concepts that we're talking about here today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I really tend to, first of all, everyone's individual, right? And so I'm approaching people as individuals, and there's going to be things that that certain individual is going to benefit from. But overall, in general, we can all benefit from syncing our rhythm with the rhythm of the sun, like we've been talking about, getting that morning light, getting some afternoon light, getting that light as it lowers and the sun sets, and then lowering the lights at night. And here it gets dark before 5 p.m. So we're not living in darkness. We're changing our light to something like this salt lamp behind me. We're lowering the actual angle of the light as another cue that it's not solar noon with the sun right above us, right? We're lowering the lights into something like an orange tone, something you would find in a firelight, right? Again, we don't have to make it complicated. We can think, well, how was it 100 years ago, right? the light of a candle, the light of a fire, lower in the environment, lower in intensity, lower in lux and lumens. That's going to be really important for any human body, right? Going outside and grounding and getting in nature is another one. It has such a powerful impact on our inflammatory system and thus our immune system, our cardiovascular system, our neurological system. I think also tending to this water body within us, making sure that we're truly hydrated, making sure that we're tending to that easy cell-bound water that we talked about. And the third one, or the fourth one, I guess it would be, is creating a frequency internally that is promoting coherence. I'm a big fan of heart coherence exercises. I do them a little bit differently. I've got some on my YouTube channel, but in only a few minutes, you can completely change your biological state by your breath and by your thoughts. So those are the four things that I really prioritize with almost every single one of my patients. And some of my patients are very debilitated. So it doesn't look like they're going outside first thing in the morning. They're opening a door or a window to get that natural light in until they increase their health, and going outside is an option, right? So it's really meeting the person where they are at. But those four things I talk about with every single one of my patients.
Right. Yeah. I've been doing a ton of research on the history of heliotherapy or light therapy. And the pioneers of that field would start off really slowly with sun exposure, basically starting with the feet, 5 minutes,
Yeah.
build it up very, very, very slowly. And back then, of course, they wouldn't have necessarily known or understood potentially things like mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS, or where histamine is potentially out of control kind of thing. So, when you have all of these types of inflammatory issues going on, going out in the sun may have to be a very slow and gradual process as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it should be balanced with that water inside the body, right? That easy water has to be built before that intense sun exposure, or we're getting into that double whammy where we're causing more issues. Absolutely.
Very interesting. And at this time of the year, Catherine, do you notice that you're maybe sleeping a little bit more as the days are shorter?
Oh, definitely. It's one of my things that I just, every season I love that summer sun. I love the energy that it brings, and I'm sad to see it go. But soon after that, I start really relishing that deep sleep, that longer sleep, that invitation to rest more. So it's just a beautiful rhythm that we are a part of. And the more we can sync with that rhythm, the healthier we'll be.
Yeah, and that's just one message to people to understand that, yeah, we need to be in sync with these changes that happen with nature. And these are the fundamental issues around our health that I think have largely been ignored because look at the germ theory and the terrain theory back in the 1800s and the debate around that. And then you have the vitamin theory that comes up. And then you have, that these toxins from the pharmaceutical industry are going to make us all wonderfully healthy. So we have had all these theories, but this whole notion of using sun as medicine has evaded us. And I'm really, really happy that this information has come to the surface now. And I'm so thrilled and thankful for practitioners like yourself who have embraced this as part of their practice. And I think it's growing in droves. I don't know if you've noticed, but I mean, it's just growing in droves right now, the interest around learning about circadian biology. I really congratulate you for embracing this, and you do such a wonderful job teaching this information and endorsing it. You're a great ambassador to the field. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I'd love to have you back on the show. But before we sign off, I'm wondering if you can share with us what you would perceive to be your perfect circadian day.
Oh, that's a great question. My perfect circadian day is waking without an alarm. And I wake a little bit around dawn, right? Before the sun has come over the horizon. And in that sleep state, in that sort of alpha brainwave state, I practice some heart coherence, some gratitude. And then I get out of bed and I go outside. I ground, I see the sunrise, I do a little lymphatic exercise and get those lymphatics moving. I use sound, I use all the things all at once to greet the day. And then I go inside and I fix a breakfast. I fix a protein, fat, fiber rich breakfast to start my day with a lot of energy and fuel for the day. And after that is done, and after I have some of my morning routine, going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth, those sort of like hygiene things, I love to move my body outside, right? So when the sun is around 10 degrees or more above the horizon, I love to take my morning walk. And then I do whatever I'm doing in my day. And I love to eat my meals outside. I love to take my meetings outside. One of the companies I consult with was actually saying, this woman really walks her talk. You know, she's always outside when we're doing our meetings. Oftentimes I'm walking at the same time, because it's our lives, it's our bodies. We really have to prioritize what makes us healthy. And then making sure that I'm outside and present when the sun is going down. I also do like to pair that with a little heart coherence and gratitude. And I like to lower the lights at night. I like to increase that infrared energy, snuggling, a warm bath to prepare for that dip in temperature that's so helpful for aligning sleep. And that would be my final step in an ideal circadian day, is getting a restful, deep, restorative sleep.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as I mentioned, I'd love to have you back on the show. And let's keep in touch. And yeah, just keep up the great work. Catherine, thank you again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, absolutely. I look forward to part 2.
Thank you for taking your valuable time to join us today. The information provided on my website, community forum, and podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. We are not licensed medical professionals, and the content shared here is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are seeking health advice or have specific medical concerns, we strongly encourage you to consult with a qualified medical doctor or healthcare provider. They are trained to evaluate your individual health needs and provide personalized recommendations tailored to your unique circumstances. By accessing and using my website, participating in my member forum, or listening to my podcast, you agree to acknowledge and abide by this disclaimer. We do not assume any responsibility or liability for actions taken based on the information provided herein.